Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Target Practice Podcast with Bobby Alford and Charlie Jewett, the podcast for insurance agents who want to make more target premium by growing their practices. So how you doing, Bobby? You doing good today?
I'm doing great today. Today is one of my favorite topics, which is sales. I think that people are going to get a lot out of our discussion and our different viewpoints on sales. So I'm ready to jump right in.
Yep. No human has the answers, but they do have what they've seen. They have their own point of view, and you pick up little pointers here and there. And everything I learned from another human, either writing or recording a video or talking to me in person or from stage or something, right? So we might as well just share what's worked for us. Sales, the second part of kind of the three parts here: marketing, sales, and then really underwriting and customer service, which underwriting is kind of part of customer service. If you mess that up, you don't get paid, right?
Yeah.
So in this, on our podcast here, we break it up into those three things. We're starting the podcast with kind of an overview of both of them. We did marketing last time. Marketing is really anything that gets another person to raise their hand and say, tell me more. It starts a conversation, right?
Right.
Sales turns it into at least paperwork, if not a paycheck, depending on how your business runs, but at least turns it into a decision. So like there's a decision to make, there's a decision to get more information. That's marketing. Decision to purchase or commit to something, right? Really to hire you. Whether you're in commissions or charge fees, doesn't really matter. That sale is made when the person makes their decision. So we're talking about that today. And I've said for a long time that sales, in my opinion now, at almost 50 years old, my opinion is sales is helping people to know what they should do. If they shouldn't do anything differently, tell them to keep doing what you're doing, right? Help them to know what they should do. Easy part. And then hard part, help them to do what they should do. Help them to make decisions and take action, which for humans is an issue, especially if we're doing something against the grain. Do you agree?
Right. And I think in one of our earlier episodes, we said basically every person in the world needs an ethical salesperson who can help persuade them to do what is best for them. So that's where we come in. We really fly the ethical flag. I know we're going to have different soapboxes where we go on about the fiduciary roles and all the titles in the industry. But the idea is that using these skills to do right by people is infinitely powerful, and everyone needs that in their lives. So we're just doing a service by helping salespeople understand that language and helping them to do right by their clients.
Sounds like a paid parent.
You're right. That's right.
You're paying for someone who loves you and will help you to do the things you want to do, even when you don't want to. It's kind of like personal coaching, the explosion of the coaching industry. And I certainly have looked at that over the years as a person that likes to influence others. Do I want to be a business coach or a personal coach? And have chosen not to. But in our industry, especially when you build teams and have, agents underneath you or whatever, have a general agency, there's obviously, coaching involved. It's just, I'm not charging them $500 a month. We get paid in different ways.
Yeah. And I'll probably drop this quote into every one of our podcasts. Entrepreneurship is self-development disguised by profit. Self-development, if you don't have sales skills, then this podcast is going to be amazing for you. Or if you want to improve those, it's going to be amazing for you. It's going to raise the level of your entire business, whether you're coaching your client to do the right thing or doing it yourself.
Exactly. So let's jump into this industry. This is different than car sales. This is different than selling to, contracts to the government, right? It's different than going farm to farm and trying to get them to buy your specially manipulated seed or whatever it is, right? This is a different world of sales. And I've got a bunch of experience here now. I actually worked in the real estate and mortgage division or mortgage industries before even starting the 17, 18 years I've had over on this side. Let's start with the bad news. Let's be fair about this. There's some things that are stacked against us that I don't like about the industry that are going to be difficult. What's it easy to get people to do? Stuff that's not good for them that they really want that has immediate results, like crack, cocaine, or like don't clean your garage, watch soap operas and eat bonbons. It's easy to get people to continue doing what they're currently doing, especially if it has immediate gratification. It doesn't take much effort, right?
Right.
So just change in general, like telling somebody, hey, get into the personal fitness business. You already have a challenge in that most people are not waking up going, I really, really feel like exercising. They're procrastinating it. So in this business, we have a couple of things. One, we're in the divorce business. Okay. If you are working with people that don't have an advisor and are just starting to save money for the first time, you may not have this issue, but those are going to be lower paying cases. So super low hanging fruit. Hey, you should be saving $100 a month. You're employed and you're not saving, but it's going to be very difficult. You have to do hundreds of clients a year to make the kind of money you want to excel or even survive in most towns with whatever salaries needed in most towns in the United States. That's going to be difficult. That means the majority of us working with annuities and life insurance are dealing with chunks and streams of money. A chunk of money would be already saved up, sitting somewhere, bank, 401k, just got it from an inheritance. It's already been saved. And streams is, hey, I'm putting away $500 a month in my 401k. Should I keep doing that? I have an extra blank amount of money to put away. I just got a raise. How much should I put towards lifestyle or blah, 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 right?
Yep.
So in that world, there's usually another advisor. Certainly if you get into online marketing, seminars, in-person marketing, or online marketing, or any kind of cold marketing to strangers, you're going to be bumping into people that already have another advisor. Let me reframe that or reword it and say, you're going to bump into somebody who has a relationship with someone.
Right.
We're in the divorce business. If you don't learn if you don't learn the proper language and how to handle that, I'll give you an example. I tell people all the time, listen, it's not who you work with, it's the plan you end up with. And sometimes it's not even which advisor you're working with, it's how many advisors you have on your team. I tell them I've been watching UFC and following mixed martial arts for over 20 years. And the top athletes today don't have a coach. They have a nutritional consultant. They have a Muay Thai coach. They have a Greco-Roman wrestling coach, a straight boxing coach, a jiu-jitsu coach. There's this whole team of people, each with a specialty, helping them. So if there is another advisor, you may want to say, well, is that person growing your money in a way that's completely tax-free? You'll never pay taxes when you get to retirement, or are they doing your no loss investments where when the market goes down, you don't lose any money. When the market goes up, you make really fair stock-like returns, or are they managing your money? Are they doing stocks, bonds, and mutual funds? You say, okay, if you don't have someone on your team doing the safe alternative investments, the no loss investments, or the tax-free retirement planning, I want to apply for that job. All of a sudden, we're not saying your guy sucks, I'm better, even though you don't know me and you have 15 years experience playing golf every weekend with that other person. That's going to be hard. Now, no matter how you spend this, at some point when they go to move money from that other person, no matter how little or how minuscule the effect is on the other person's paycheck, people don't like it. They don't like the way it feels, and they're probably going to get a call from the other person. So do you agree we're kind of in the business of breaking up a relationship that's professional, but made to feel very personal?
Right. And so I would add to that, like the divorce, when you say we're in the divorce business, my mind immediately goes to marriage. And we are still in that realm as well, right? Because any sort of breakup of relationship, there's going to be assets moving. But what you're focusing on here is the breakup of a relationship with a financial advisor or a different advisor, insurance agent that may not be doing the best for them. So where we have found the most success is coming in alongside them. You've heard, we talked about it in the marketing episode, the riches are in the niches. If you specialize in home equity planning and that's your niche, go there, go deep, get very knowledgeable, and then you can serve everyone that has a home. And so becoming a specialist allows you to differentiate yourself. To your point in the earlier episodes, it changes the conversation, the language changes, and you're not saying, wow, that advisor you have, he is screwing you or she is screwing you. No. You're not making it confrontational. Your language softens. You're saying, hey, I have an expertise in this area that you don't have in your current team. Right. Like Tiger Woods has a team of coaches, right? And he'll change his swing coach if it's not working out. The same thing doesn't happen in the financial world. No one says, you know what, Tony had a horrible last couple of years with my portfolio, I'm going to move. No, they start to think about it like a marriage. They're in with this person, and if they move, Tony's going to feel it and he's going to be hurt. Oh, I got to just deal with it. And that's what we're trying to say here when you're divorcing an existing relationship.
Right. And there's language that will teach you, like you say to the client, hey, or the prospective client, listen, this is not personal, it's business. There's 8 billion people on the planet. And if you're going to pick one of them to follow, we believe, even if it's us, we believe it's important for you to have a way to measure what you want them to accomplish, and then annually if they're doing that. So all we're really talking about is ignoring the who completely. Let's look at the results or the what you have. Let's use the 5 Lives of Retirement test and see if, one, do you have a plan, or do you just have hope? Hope is not a financial plan.
Yeah.
Do you have a plan? Secondly, if someone is gambling your money and charging a fee, are they beating the market? Are they making you more than you would without them? That's really important. Okay. I mean, if you hire somebody to cut your lawn and the grass is longer with them than if they don't show up, don't pay them. Right. So if you are making less money than if you did not use a money manager, it is not hard to sell against money managers. I'm not saying it's easy to get people to leave. I'm just telling you, it is really, really easy to make that person's money manager look useless in their life and bring someone to the decision where you, for the first time, will see, do I have a prospect or not? They're a tire kicker.
Yeah.
They're an uncommitted tire kicker where you don't know anything about them until you tell them to move the money. Honestly, that's the point. So that's the bad news. We're breaking up relationships, although you can learn how to help people do that. And there's ways to, say to people, like, what's more important to you, the results you get or keeping this relationship? For instance, if this relationship costs you 30% of your income from age 62 to as long as you can live, is it worth that? Is this a paid relationship where you're paying to not break up?
Yeah.
If it's costing you 30% of your income, do you want that? And then you also have the part where it's like, listen, let's build a real retirement plan with in-case accounts, income, and increase accounts. Let's first do the architecture, because they're not in the business of architecture. You can see they send you statements with pie charts. They're in the business of managing the part of it that's there to be risked that you don't need for income. That's easy to teach people. Why don't we do the architecture first, find out how much is left that can be risked, then say, of all the 8 billion people in the world, which one should we hire? Oh, I already have one that I know pretty well. First comparison against the S&P 500, compare them against Vanguard and Fidelity and not using a manager. If they're beating those or the S&P 500, then you can compare them against other advisors or choose not to. You can go, if they're beating the market, which is very rare, they're in the super elite of all money managers. I don't even know if you need to compare them to other money managers. The problem is when you compare managed money, the actual S&P 500, if somebody was beating it, to the alternative strategies that are safer, annuities and life insurance are beating the market over the last 22 years. So the market has become, you've got a friend who does something that you have like a blacksmith and no horses. He says, but he's the best horseshoer. And I like to go to golf and play and talk about what is it, iron or whatever. What's the thing called? Talk about what's the oven called? You know what I mean? Is it called an urn or I don't know what it's called. My uncle's a farrier too. I don't even know what it's called. The hot thing where you stick the metal into it, right? Yeah.
Furnace.
The furnace. Let's go talk about that. Like, no, I don't have horses anymore, right?
Yeah.
If you've graduated, you tell the client, do you still see your pediatrician? No. Why? And get them to say, because I'm not 18 or under. I outgrew their specialty. And when I left, of course, they're not upset with me. They understand. Yep. Okay, if you're in the stock market and have someone professionally risking money for you 22 years after that worked and moving towards the income phase of retirement. So there's contribution, accumulation, distribution, and then transfer. If you're moving towards that distribution phase where stocks can't even compete with the worst annuity, you've outgrown the professional,
right?
Someone you don't need. If you don't want cork floors, you don't need the best cork floor installer in all of Florida or whatever.
And that language right there that you just went through is exactly why financial advisors are joining our team, is because you can graduate someone into the insurance products, into the safe world. And some people still want to have their money managed, right? So if they hang their own shingle with us and they've moved over, they can do both, right? And I'm not saying that that's what everybody should do. I'm just saying that ability to provide an exit plan for your clients is how we can differentiate ourselves in this market.
Yeah, if you're in a different company, if you're independent, if you're one of our agents, it doesn't matter. This movement is about getting as many people as possible to do what's right for the clients. And it happens to be very lucrative, right? You'll get more target, you'll earn more money. Your practice will grow faster, you get more referrals. But the reason the podcast is growing, the products that we offer, some people are enjoying them, the team, the reason is it's different language than most people are used to. You do not want to compete with I'm better at doing exactly what you have than your person that you already like is,
Yep.
right? So the divorce is an issue. We're also asking for a change. Point number 2 is whenever you ask a human to change what they're doing, you're going to be up against a problem. Now, this may not be true for humans in deep, deep, deep suffering. They need quadruple bypass surgery or they're going to die. They've grown so large, their body, they can't get out their front door anymore, right?
Yeah.
They're in a ton of emotional pain. They seek suicide counseling or something like that. The super extreme, Joe Stump says people don't change until they must, not when
Right.
they want to. They change when they must. I've wanted to play musical instruments and own things and lose weight for decades. You know what I mean? I finally did. Woohoo! This year I finally lost some weight. But we're asking people to change. That's going to be a problem too. You have to really show them a pain that they're going to avoid or a pleasure they're going to get. And it's in an industry that's not tangible. You can't really convince them that the pizza is going to taste good. And then they taste the pizza and it does. The results come 30 years later, which is kind of an issue. So you really have to use language and things you present to them and show them, finding out their hot buttons.
Yep.
We're also going against tradition. I mean, I came into the industry. If you listen to my podcast, read my books, you'll find that one of the first things I did is say, what's popular? Like, what do other people do? And I came up with the 3 pillars of financial deception. What's popular is pay off your mortgage, because apparently mortgages are supposed to be bad. Postpone taxes to a later date when you're going to be in a lower tax bracket, because apparently when countries are broke and the only way they can make money is to tax the citizens, when the biggest generation that ever lived has lots of money and pre-tax money, apparently taxes are supposed to go down. That doesn't make any sense to me. But postpone taxes to a later date when apparently taxes, you're supposed to be in a lower tax bracket. No deductions because you paid off your mortgage. No kids living at home, so no deductions there. No deductions from contributions to work, like 401ks and IRAs, because you're retired by definition. And your highest income you've ever had from inflation, but you're supposed to be in a lower tax bracket, whatever, right?
Right. And so that's a dual-edged sword, right? To go against tradition, you're going to find people that want that right away, right? You're going to start, when you start letting people know what you do, how you differentiate yourself, people are going to want that. But also you're going to get a lot of tag kickers, right? You're also going to get a lot of immediate no's because those are their sacred cows, as Seth Godin says, right? And the goal here is to differentiate yourself and start speaking in a different language. So both of those, double-edged sword, it's harder to transition someone to not agree with those 3 pillars of financial deception, right? They've all bought into it for so many years. It's hard to convince them not to. But the ones who already don't want to do that and want to move something else, you're immediately going to set yourself apart in this industry by going against tradition.
Exactly. So if you really want to earn trust by telling people not to trust you, which has sort of always been my style, which is like, I'm nothing, forget me. Like looking out your windshield, the person sitting in your in the passenger seat saying there's not a duck in the road, there's not a duck in the road, there's not an old lady, there's not a baby. It doesn't matter if there's a baby, a duck, or an old lady. I don't know why I'm thinking about ducks, right? But I just read a whole Spanish story about ducks, pato, whatever, right? So if you see it there, it's true. If you don't see it there, if they're saying there's an old lady and there's not. It's the truth is the truth. You don't need somebody's opinion, right?
Right.
So you can earn trust by saying things like, and by the way, you want to be different. That's part of marketing, is being different. You can say things like that. As we move through this process, you're going to see that I'm different than other advisors. And I just have a question. At the end, do you and your spouse want what's best for you or what's easy and feels good? Because in this industry, you can't have both. So I need to know. I can give you both. I get paid to do both. I'm the grocery store. You want to eat, peanut butter on tuna? Buy them both here. I'll make the profit. That's cool. You get the meal you want. Here, you get the retirement plan you want. But I need to know, as a fiduciary or just as a professional, if you're not a fiduciary, say as a professional, okay, in an industry with a lot of compliance, I need to know, do you want what's best for you or do you want what's traditional and easy?
And feels normal.
What worked for our parents and what was winning in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that has changed. That's my job. It's what I do on a daily basis, is show people things they didn't know. And they go, wait, what? Are you the type of people that can go against the grain? And if your neighbors aren't doing what's best for them, that you are okay not getting that pat on the back. It's not that hard to get people to say yes. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to. It is perception management, the beginning phases of perception management, looking like you know what you're talking about, which you will, it's not fake, and looking like, look and showing them that you're not like everybody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's also, in the sales world, it's also a step close, right? You're going to get them to start thinking and agreeing with your methodology along the way, and that, every time they say yes, every time they agree with that process is literally part of the building blocks of a sales close, right? So that's more granular, but that's the same idea. If they're on board with where you're going already, get those little yeses, get those little affirmations along the way.
Exactly right. Exactly right. You want to get multiple little yeses along the way. Perfect. So we're going against tradition. When they look it up online, when they study, we're going to go against tradition, right? We don't have social proof on our side. They're not going to go to parties with appetizers where everyone else says, oh my gosh, I'm doing annuities and life insurance as well. You're right. All advisors out there right now are liars and we need to go against them. You're not going to get that pat on the back. You're not going to get Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, who, in my opinion, you can form your own opinion. In my opinion, Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman are like a tall glass of beautiful water with just a little bit of cyanide. Like saying that they have some really good teachings. I agree. I don't care if 29 days a month your spouse is nice to you and the third day they stab you in the head with a knife. That's not a good spouse, right? Like just a little bit of something that hurts you a lot is not good for you. You don't want that. Okay. You're not going to get social proof from the internet, most other podcasts or shows. You're not going to get it from neighbors. You're not going to get it from your parents. They're from a generation that, listen, if your parents tried something and it worked, or you're talking to anyone in the tax planning business, anyone who's a CPA or a tax preparer. So the older generation or someone in tax preparation or a CPA, and you talked about doing something different than what worked for them, you're in for an uncomfortable conversation. They don't live in that world. That you don't fix it unless it's broken.
Right.
We're not living in that world. They're not the ones who had to take money out of 401ks and IRAs after the lost decade. And in the future, when the country decides how to fix the problem that we can't afford Social Security and Medicare, they're not the ones. They're the ones who lived during the 70s, 80s, and 90s when the market made 14%. More risk did equal more reward. We're at 22 years now. And the market before fees, before taxes, and if you don't use an advisor and we're in the S&P 500 getting all the dividends for the entire 22 years, you're at 7.51% compounding. Not even 8 before fees and taxes. And we're 5 years late for a crash. Yep. That's with record high. People go, well, why are you cherry picking and measuring from when it got bad? I'm like, I don't know. Why would you cherry pick and measure from the bottom unless you're Jesus? I mean, how would you time it perfectly? You know what I mean? I'm trying to say you plan for the worst and hope for the best in planning, especially if you're a conservative. So of course I'm picking a 22-year period that would not have worked for what everyone does and what my competition says still works, because they're lying. It doesn't still work.
Yeah. You're not uniquely cherry picking with a 22-year sample, right? You're not saying this 8 years was amazing. No, you're saying over most of your adult life, here's the reality. Because you're not dealing with 25-year-olds that are looking to invest money and have dealt with 22 years of this market. No, we're saying that most of your investment life, this is what's happening. Now, if we add another decade, does it change? A little bit. If we add another decade, does it change? A little bit. And ultimately, it comes down to what is most applicable for you and what's happening now. So you can keep going back and changing the sample size, but really what we're saying here is that the industry itself is built to keep things status quo. You're commoditized, you break down, it's hard to fight against the norms. Like all these things have been built so that things don't change, and nothing changes if nothing changes, right? They're designed to keep you in their book of business and you become their annuity. We're saying this to the client, obviously. This is agents understand what they're up against, but you just need to know why there's not a lot of information about this. Why once you do right by a client, I mean, really do right like we do, they become your social proof. They become, I mean, we just finished up, Charlie and I just finished up with a client just 2 weeks ago, the end of the year. And the holiday time, he sent us a dozen referrals because he was so excited what we had just done for he and his wife that they booked up the first 2 weeks of our calendar. Like, that becomes your social proof. And that only happens when you do right by them and help them understand the process.
The other thing that's important to know is my first year in this business as a rookie, 2005, I made about $450,000 and it was only 12 families. So the other reason not to just focus on like helping people transfer a couple $100 a month and do it, and it's just really hard to make money that way. You don't need a lot of referrals. You don't need a lot of marketing. You don't need a lot of families. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're doing a $300 tax return, you've got to do 200, 300, 400 a year from January to April to make your living, right? Mm-hmm. If you're selling spaceships, I don't know, does that happen? You sell one and you're done. You know what I mean? But like, that's hard. Where do you find your prospects? Not at parties. Hi, do you need to buy a spaceship right now? Roller coasters. I mean, there are roller coaster salespeople. How often do you have to replace those things? That's weird, right? We kind of, financial services, in my opinion, is the perfect middle of easy to find clients, prospects, and pays well, right? You're not getting the same paycheck as if you sold a country or a train or a high rise in LA. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to find prospects for that, right? So this is a beautiful, and it doesn't even cost them any money to do what they're doing. So Bobby brought something up, language, that I want to just hit on. It's like, if you can learn things like saying, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, only one side of the table gets income for life. Like, one side's going to have risk and the other side gets income for life. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Retirement planning is about income. And if you use income products, somebody else says you get income until you die. Even if you're running out of money, they carry the risk and you're going to get your paycheck. You know, you're fine until you pass away. If you use managed money, you're telling your advisor, you can have income until I run out of money or die. You get the guaranteed income. I don't know what I'm getting. In stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, you can't know what income to take, and you have to take such a low income. So when you look at that decision sitting across the table from somebody, if the advisor sells an annuity, the client gets guaranteed income for life. The advisor has the risk of only getting paid once, and they've got to manage their money well. They don't get paid forever. Most advisors do it the other way. Say, no, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you carry all the risk. I'll just charge you fees and play golf. So if you can learn to position it, say to somebody, someone bought an annuity and someone sold an annuity, no matter what you're in. Somebody bought an annuity and someone sold an annuity. One side of the table got guaranteed income. The only question is, which side of the table did your advisor suggest receive the guaranteed income? If they put you in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, they took it for themselves, left you with risk and 22 years of poor performance, making less. If they sold you the annuity, pretend it's the best annuity, they gave you the income. Even with life insurance, by the way, set up properly, it's not guaranteed, but it's like infinitely safer than taking an income from stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. If they gave you a life insurance or an annuity, they made the choice to do what's right and give you the income. By the way, if you're with an advisor who's never mentioned annuities or life insurance, just run. You don't even need to check. Just run as fast as humanly possible, because why am I talking like they're clients? These are advisors. If you come up to someone and you're talking to them and say, I'm assuming your advisor has gone over stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and the 581 annuities in the country that give income that have no losses and are beating the stock market, the good ones. And then, of course, how to have tax-free income in retirement by not using stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. You guys have reviewed all of that. True or not true? And when they say no, say, don't tell them what to do. Just say, let me take a note. Later on, you can say, it was our first appointment. I didn't want to be mean. But when I take a note like that, my note says run, because it's not even, you're not even in the stadium, like deciding which side to sit on or which team you're supporting or which team you're not even in the stadium. If you're with an advisor who hasn't even told you there's another world that's beating the stock market that more money is moving to than anything right now. So sorry, Bobby, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, and you added to it, made it even better. So a little pat on your back. For those who just listened to that, rewind that 3-4 minutes and listen to it again, because that's the language differentiation that has made me become a part of Charlie's team. It's also helped me achieve what I achieved in my first year. Differentiating yourself in those conversations is a game changer, because we're commoditized from their point of view. They think all financial advisors get the same training. They think all financial advisors do the same thing. And so if they just get the guy that helps them or plays golf with them, or they really like at the barbecue, then everything's going to turn out exactly the same. However, when you have conversations exactly like he just laid out, you're in a whole different class. They see you as an expert in your field. They see you as a clear communicator. And that alone, just rewind, listen to it again. That's gold. But go ahead. That was it. I just wanted to give you credit.
Well, the last 2 points I'm going to skip over because maybe we'll just do shows. We'll do a show on Ken Fisher, do a show on Dave Ramsey, do a show on Susie Orman. But you have bad press, and it's just fun when you learn how to do this right. You say, you know what, I really like some of Dave Ramsey's stuff. I like when he tells the truth, and the stuff when he lies, I don't like it.
Yeah.
You just throw it out there and let it sit there in their mind for a little bit. You know what I mean? You can see, I like Susie Orman. I just wish she would debate me. I don't know what she's afraid of. Right. And then when she lies about life insurance, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Or you say, Ken Fisher, I'm not sure that being a billionaire means you can say 2 + 2 is 5. Like truth is still truth. Yeah. So Ken Fisher, who knows? I mean, he's actually in the press for some horrible other things, but you just go, I'm not really sure. I know he gets paid to manage money. And he wrote an article called I Hate Annuities and You Should Too, that are completely full of falsities, and he won't debate Charlie Jewett from Renovating Retirement. You just name drop my name and keep using these things. We have a lot of competition. We'll certainly talk about Edward Morgan Lynch, Edward Jones, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch. So what's the good news? There's got to be some good news now that we've depressed everybody.
Now that we've gone through the bad parts of this business, which if you're listening to this, you already know most of these things.
Still sober, and we haven't driven you through that entire bottle of tequila. Let's talk about the good news. Here's the good news. You're the writer, director, producer, and actor of your movie. The experience you take any prospect through, you're 100% in control of it. I looked it up because I've been saying it for 17 years. I looked up the Rotten Tomatoes for Titanic and Waterworld, Bobby. I was shocked. I was actually shocked that the Titanic is rated lower than the new Cobra Kai, right? It's a classic, right?
Wow.
Cobra Kai is incredible. So Titanic is 89% of all the people that have watched it for all these years. 89% love it on Titanic, on the Rotten Tomatoes. Waterworld, another movie involving ships and things. I think Kevin Costner might be more famous than Leonardo DiCaprio, or maybe back in that day he was, like the late 90s, right?
Yep.
Very famous for Dances with Wolves and all that jazz, The Bodyguard. Yep. Waterworld with Kevin Costner didn't do as well. It's 48%, but someone wrote them, directed them, produced them, filmed them, and then looked at it and said, it's ready. It's ready for the public, okay? And released it and shared it, okay? Took someone through the experience of watching it. Being different is easy in this business. Very, very easy. We're going to teach you how to do this. One is tell the truth, okay? You're already in a tiny little group, okay? 2, don't hide things. Don't go to work for Edward Morgan Lynch and get paid to peddle someone else's mutual funds. Don't do that. That's easy, okay? Don't start with what I have to sell and then find clients to force them into what you have to sell. That is not loving. I don't agree with that in any way, shape, or form. Don't, on the same token, throw the baby out with the bathwater and go work for one of the insurance companies that's captive that says you have to sell our crap, even if another insurance company would beat us. Don't be a captive agent. If your starting point is that your client is your boss and your client can't be your client, don't do this. Don't use any of these techniques to hurt people. So if you tell the truth and you don't hide solutions, you're actually showing, you have the grocery store and you go, what would you like to eat? I have it for you.
And I would add to that if you are in one of those groups, I mean, maybe you correct me if I'm wrong, but don't listen to this podcast. If that's your goal of hiding a few things in order to make your client, which is your employer, more money, that's not doing right by the customer. And that's where we stand firm with the ethical flag. Like we'd say, hey, I don't care what title you have behind your name, do right by them. And we're all still going to get paid really well. But if that's your starting point, if your starting point is I am only here and I only sell these products, you probably don't want to listen to us because you're going to hear a lot of things you don't like.
And here's something you could do in the middle, because if you are a person of integrity and you've been told that your company has an annuity or a life insurance policy that's unique. I used to be in the mortgage industry, and a mortgage broker could beat any bank for the most part, because we could go to all the banks except for they had this, I can't remember, I think it might have been Bank of America or whatever. They had this Acorn loan that was like crazy unique, and they were the only ones that had it, and brokers didn't, like other banks didn't have it. So you had this unique thing, you know what I mean? The breadsticks at this one place locally are really amazing, right? They're their own breadsticks, whatevs. If you believe, or you've been told that your company has that, take yourself through the comparison process. Reach out to Bobby at targetpractice.com, send an email to Bobby and say, could you help me review my company's products to see, can I do what's best for my prospects? The only time I make an exception here is if you're at a company that's handing you prospects. Like, you really don't own the lead, and you can live with yourself. Like, you work inside a bank, they hand you the prospects, and you have to sell what the bank has. I have an issue with it. I could not do it, but I don't feel it's in that same category of immoral as you're out finding prospects and then forcing them into something that you're forcing them into an inferior retirement. In this industry, when you give somebody an inferior product, you're costing them 20, 30, 40% of all the net worth, all the income they could have for 40 years. And you're punishing every generation, every single generation in the future, you're punishing with a lower net worth, because you want that office, you want those friends, you want the conferences, whatever it is you want.
And that's a much better middle ground. I was just like, get out of here. Just don't even be here. But you're right. If it's their leads and you're kind of the middleman and you're okay with it and you're not doing that bad by them, okay.
Well,
I still say you're going to learn a lot.
Yeah. If you see you can do better and won't do it because of something that's good for you, then
right.
get out of here. Like, don't listen to the podcast. That's not who the show's for, right? The show's for people that when they learn, wait, what? I'm independent and I didn't know about this product or strategy. Let me add that. Or wait, what? I'm captive. I didn't know that independents could do this. And I've through ignorance, not immorality, but through ignorance, I've had to give inferior financial plans, but I will never do that again.
Right.
This show is for true fiduciaries. I don't care what license you have. If you're a fiduciary in your soul, like, you will apply the golden rule and do unto others what you'd want done to you. This show's for you. Other than that, yeah, you're right.
There it is. Yep. That's a great summary. Perfect.
So you create the client experience. We've already talked about some of that. How does it start? Right. I've recorded a 20-minute, Bobby doesn't even know this. I've recorded a 20-minute, how do I start my conversations? How do I take people through the merit planning, the in-case income increase, and the 5 lives of retirement test? How do I take them through? Listen, I'm using a completely different model. This isn't like buy a bunch of crap and hope it works out, which is what most of my competition does. Yeah. It's totally different than that. This is a planning for what? Well, we've answered those questions. Planning with what? Like, what parts of my life prepare me for these things that could happen? Well, we need the mortgage plan, estate plan, retirement plan, insurance plan, tax plan to be brought up to date in case you have a long life, short life, rough life, sick life, or just die peacefully and move into the next life. Already, I mean, that took me less than 15 seconds. Already you will sound different if you either work with a marketing team like ours or another one and come up with your own, or you borrow that one, you're on our team, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you have something you're saying that immediately grabs our attentions and you're looking different. And the good news here that I wrote down is being different is easy. Listen, when your competition does nothing and hasn't changed since the 80s, this is easy, okay? You go into a very dark room and light a tiny candle or a lighter, you can see it. You've been at those concerts where everybody's waving their phones now. It used to be lighters, right? Even one phone in a dark stadium that could hold 50,000 people, you could see the one phone, right? A bright light, can't they see that one hotel, that pyramid in Las Vegas? Can't they see that from space?
Yeah.
Right. So a bright light's cool, but you don't need a bright light in this industry because your competition is so bad. That's actually the next point. I didn't even see it. Your competition sucks. That's the way I talk, right? I don't meet the prospect and say your agent sucks. But do we have me recorded for people to watch handling another financial advisor?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Like the honest ones at the end will go, well, I suck, right? The dishonest advisors at the end will go, "You suck. I don't like you. I don't feel comfortable around you." What
I won't debate you again.
What no one can do, and I like this kind of stuff. You'll learn this from this podcast. I like kind of stuff. I like writing books that no one can disagree with. They just get mad at. They'll just leave a bad review. This guy's drinking the Kool-Aid, because they can't disagree with anything that's said in there. And that's how you want to run your client appointments as well. Is let me just present things to you that nobody can disagree with. If somebody's out there and says, "I think 2 + 2 is 5," you just know they're stupid or they have an angle.
Yep.
Right. If somebody says, "I haven't tasted onions, but they sound like they wouldn't taste good," you just know they're unqualified. Right.
Yep.
So when some other financial advisor makes a comment on your planning process and you say, "How many plans of mine have you reviewed?" and they say 0, you go, "Okay, your opinion is useless to me. I don't know what you're talking about." Right.
Yeah.
I've reviewed thousands of portfolios like you do, and I can tell you what they are. Or, "Mr. Advisor, why don't you just send me the 10 years of S&P 500 returns and your returns, and we'll put them side by side." When they won't do that, they've just fired themselves. Okay.
Yep.
Which is, by the way, really fun to do with your prospects, is say, "Can we come up with something that your advisor either does to prove they're beating the market, they're worth their fees, or when they say they won't do it, that they have fired themselves?" In other words, can we just rehire the person if they're worth it? Like, I don't have any trouble them being a subcontractor on your team, managing the risk money,
Mm-hmm.
but they need to be making more than if we didn't pay them. Does that make sense to you, Mr. and Mrs. Jones? Okay, here's how we do that. We say, "Here's the returns for the last 10 years. Please show me yours." If they say, "No, I won't," they voluntarily resigned. You have to have like subcontractors that'll report they're doing their job. Or when they come back with lower numbers or an excuse, we say, "Of the 8 billion people in the world, I think we're going to thank you for your time. I think we're going to use someone else now. I've graduated from the pediatrician, and I've graduated from blindly paying you to lose me money.
Yep.
If not using you works better than using you, let me just not use it." Anyway, so commoditization can be your friend. I love commodity sales. Everyone's like, you gotta differentiate yourself. You don't want someone comparing side by side. 80% of the sales out there that would be really easy are somebody that already owns life insurance and annuities. And you say, "Well, let's see if we need to keep it or refinance that bugger," right? Did you know there's a 1035 exchange? You've probably heard of a 1031 exchange, where you can sell one house and move your profits into another house and don't pay taxes. And it creates kind of fluidity and flexibility and liquidity. If you don't like the real estate you're in, or rents have gone down, or there's a bunch of murders in the neighborhood, whatever, let's go to a different place, take your profits and start over somewhere else where it's booming, right? Same thing with annuities and life insurance. They change every year, and you're always allowed, including penalties, by the way, you're always allowed to look at it. Some contracts have penalties too high, you can't move them. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But even with the penalties, you can look at a contract and go, "Do I want this one, or of the thousands that are now available, different since when I bought this, would I like to move it to another one?" That's called a refinance. I'm not ignoring surrender penalties. Don't do that. Don't write those comments. Don't spaz out. I'm saying, in theory, every policy can be refinanced just like a mortgage. And you're looking at the math and that commodity sale. I buy annuity leads, and they are freakishly expensive. And it works because one of the things, it's someone who's shopping for an annuity, but sometimes they already have one. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, annuities are like mortgages. You either have the very best single product for your state, your age, your goals available in the country, but they change every month. One of the things I want to do for you at no cost is always be comparing, what do you have? What could you have? What do you have? What could you have? What do you have? What could you have? When what you could have at no cost might be better or seems like an improvement, just like refinancing a mortgage from a high rate to a low rate. When it seems that way, may I present that to you? Yes. Yep. Okay. You have an old policy.
Or maybe their goals have changed, right? They were in an income annuity and it wasn't growing, and they didn't realize what they had that they could deal with, or vice versa. They were in a growth and they want the steady paycheck. Like, those are all viable reasons to look at a refinance. I use quotes for that for those listening, not watching. We call it a refinance because that's what people understand. And we're finding a better product, better rates, better outcome for them, whatever their outcome needs to be.
You're talking about apples to apples or apples to oranges, right? And then sometimes we meet people who had an annuity when they were in between the marriages. Now they're happily married with a spouse. They'd like to continue to get income if they pass away, but they might have a pension and an annuity that only have single life payout, or maybe they're living on it, right? The single life payout.
Yep.
We want to move. That's an apples to oranges kind of a thing, or I don't even need this thing anymore, right? Listen, you want to know the easiest sale in the industry is you meet somebody who has a non-qualified annuity. Somebody who has an annuity that's not inside of an IRA. Why would they have ever needed that? They could have done a modified endowment contract inside of life insurance, higher returns, higher death benefit, taxed exactly the same way. It's going to be taxed kind of like an IRA. It's not capital gains taxes inside of that annuity. Non-qualified annuities are easy to move. Variable annuities, oh my gosh, like taking candy from a baby if you learn how to sell against variable annuities. So you want to learn apples to apples comparisons, which we'll teach in future shows, apples to oranges comparisons. And then let me just real quickly touch on what has worked for me and suggest that in your marketing with your marketing consultant, or if you work with our team, whatever, that somehow you want a way to talk about how you're different that makes sense to the person, okay? That makes a ton of sense and sounds different than what they have. I do it like this. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I was a electrician. I was used to working from blueprints, very well thought out. I got into this industry. It seemed completely myopic. The tax advisor didn't talk to the mutual fund person. The mutual fund person didn't sell life insurance. The life insurance person was either not there or didn't talk to anybody. Just this big, like, mess of people that weren't talking. Imagine showing up on the construction site for the people building your dream home, and there's no blueprints, no general contractor, and all the workers are deaf and mute. They can't speak to each other. What in the world? That's how I found the financial services industry to be. So I just thought, well, what would happen if we had blueprints? And so I thought about the different categories and came up with this cutesy name. And for 17 years, I've been calling it merit planning. I'm going to look at your mortgage plan, estate plan, retirement plan, insurance plan, and tax plan, those 5 areas that are kind of govern your financial life, and they all affect each other. If they're perfect, I'm going to pat you on the back, say, great job, probably try to hire you. If they're not, I'm going to show you how to fix it at no cost. It's always a budget neutral strategy to fix the problems in this particular. You find mold in your house, not budget neutral. You find mold in your financial plan, budget neutral. It's always good news. You're perfect or you're not, doesn't cost money to fix it. Would it be okay with you if I do the most thorough review that's ever been done of your finances, mortgage plan, estate plan, retirement plan, insurance plan, and tax plan? In the worst case scenario is I come back and say, you're a genius, it's perfect. Better news is I can lower your fees, increase your returns, increase your income, lower your taxes, leave more money when you pass away at no cost. Whatever you get it at no cost, budget neutral, or you're perfect. Would that be okay if I'm not charging a fee? A wise attorney never asks questions they don't know the answer to. I know they're going to say yes. Doesn't mean they're going to become a client. Your job at the first appointment is not to make them a client. It's to sell the second appointment. Okay? You don't have to do it my way. I schedule appointments until they cry mercy and say, when can I sign apps? Right? Which is probably why I got so badly beat up in the industry, Bobby, right? Doing 9 appointments. It's just not my style to say, now, I've already created 3 logos. You have to like this one, right? I know the house is missing a bedroom, but I've redrawn these like 12 times. You have to live in this custom home, even though it doesn't have all the bedrooms you want. It's just not my style. My style is, listen, this is your financial plan, and there's an infinite number of different things we can do. We're going to go back and forth until you say it's perfect, and then you're going to buy it. Make sense?
Absolutely. And that right there is a differentiator. Going back to the beginning of this conversation, you are now different than every other advisor they've ever even heard of, let alone talk to. So that language changes the conversation from the get-go.
Yep. And you can also tell them, I don't do plastic surgery on all body parts at the same time to save on anesthesia, right? If there's a number of different things we're going to do, I'm not going to tell you to do them all at once. It's not fun for you. It's not fun for me. It's scary. You're going to pick the one you want to fix. If we're going to do some tax-free retirement planning, we're going to do some alternative investments, whatever. You have an old annuity that needs to be transferred. When we get to the end of a review, I'm going to say, well, here's the 3 things that could be improved upon. Do you agree? Yes. Which one? And by the way, the best sales question ever is like, do you want to ignore it or fix it? You want to ignore it or fix it? Let them choose.
Yep.
And then you just go, where'd you like to start? Is there one that's more exciting to you or bothering you more? Do you want me to refinance the annuity? Do you want me to set up your tax-free plan? Where do you want to start? And then you start it. And then after they're in action, it's going, you go, okay, which one would you like to handle next? And you're always selling more things to the same people. Your book of business is huge and popping. And if you're keeping people happy in your perception management department, you're getting referrals during the process.
Absolutely. And, we like to step them through one small change at a time, move them through the plan, because the merit plan, the holistic architecture that we provide becomes sometimes overwhelming and daunting to them, especially if they've never even created their own plan. They don't know what they want.
Right.
And so that we actually had a client just last week that basically said, look, I know I shouldn't be doing this all at once, but I really want to. I want to move forward so I have the option to retire. So what do? We give them what they're looking for. We go back and forth as many times as they want. And the end result is now that becomes over $1.5 million. It's moving, which means we get paid. And our book of business grows by simply giving them what they're asking for, because we have educated them differently along the way.
And there's to close this podcast episode on sales, the overview, there's your easy definition of sales. Ask what they want and give it to them if it's available and morally appropriate.
There you go. All right. Well, we will work to make these episodes shorter. We will work to make them more concise, but these are the overview episodes. Or sorry, I will work to do that. These are the overview episodes of how we view the entire industry. And we're going to talk through the underwriting process, or what we call the perception management department. We're going to talk through that, but I think you're going to get a lot of value when we start breaking down the particular niches in each one of the first two, the marketing and sales, that he and I are very clearly passionate about, if you haven't picked that up yet. Yeah. And I think as we do the pros and cons, you're going to see it can work for you. No matter what it is, it can work for you. The trick is to find the language, do the best by the client, and the book of business will not stop growing. It's amazing.
Yeah, go help more people. Go help more people.
There it is. All right. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks.